Imagine for a second that you're trying to build our IPO case against a billionaire.
Okay.
You've got the ultimate smoking gun, right? A signed contract proving just, unimaginable corruption.
Yeah,
But there are a few massive problems.
there always are.
Exactly. First, to get that contract, you had to survive an underground duel with a prosecutor sent straight from the nine hells.
Right.
Second, the contract is actually for the souls of the billionaire's own children.
Wow. Yeah, that's heavy.
And third, how do you convince a beat cop to arrest this family when their mansion is guarded by a demon who uses chains as living appendages?
Good luck with that.
Right. I mean, if you have ever dealt with a nightmare bureaucratic loophole in your own life, you're going to appreciate the absolute jurisdictional chaos of what we're looking at today.
Oh, absolutely.
Because today we're talking about what happens when cosmic evil collides with municipal law enforcement. We're doing a deep dive into a detailed set of tabletop role-playing campaign logs, specifically focusing on the pivotal events of Session 26, Terms of Engagement.
Yeah, and it is a phenomenal case study in the friction between two completely different systems of order. On one side, you have infernal law, right, which is ancient, it's ruthless and universally binding.
Yeah.
And on the other, you have mortal justice, which is, well, it's messy, it's bogged down by city politics, and it's entirely reliant on the people who are actually willing to enforce it.
Right, which isn't always a guarantee.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack this exact intersection.
Awesome.
We're going to explore this brutal combat trial that functions more like a hostile audit, honestly.
Oh, I love that description.
Yeah, and we'll dissect the rigid mechanics of devilish contracts and finally look at the staggering logistical nightmare of trying to hold the ultra-wealthy accountable for a literal deal with the devil.
Okay, let's unpack this because
Yeah.
the session logs drop us right into a high-stakes.
Right into the deep end.
Yeah. The party has just descended through this secret passage into a vast subterranean ritual chamber. And towering over the room is a statue of Asmodeus, the ruler of the nine hells.
Creepy.
Very. And waiting for them in the center of this temple is Nephris. The notes describe her as an Erinys, the commander of the Perdixicai, and she was sent by the archdevil Glacia.
Right.
But she isn't there to assassinate them, which was my first thought.
Sure.
The logs say she is there to test their worthiness, to hold an authenticated copy of the Castellanter infernal contract.
Yeah, it's an evaluation.
Which, help me understand the mechanics of this, because my first thought is, why test them at all?
So to understand the why, we really have to understand what an Erinys actually is.
Okay.
Because mortal folklore often paints devils as, mindless brutes or cackling tricksters.
Right, guys with pitchforks.
Exactly. But an Erinys is something entirely different. They are the martial perfection of infernal law.
Wow.
Think of them as a combination of a Supreme Court justice and a special forces commander.
That is a terrifying combination.
It really is. And Nephris belongs to the Perdixicai, which is this elite legion. She's been sent by Glacia, who actually possesses the proof of the Castellanter family's horrific pact.
Okay, so she has the smoking gun.
Right. But devils operate on the principle of maximum return on investment.
Of course they do.
Yeah. They do not hand over leverage, especially leverage that could disrupt mortal souls, without a demonstration of capability.
I see.
A contract is really only useful if the entity holding it has the strength to enforce its consequences.
So then Nephris is basically the universe's most lethal quality assurance inspector.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
And the demonstration of capability she gets from the party is immediate and, frankly, completely chaotic.
Oh, that's a mess.
Yeah. According to the logs, Valessa, the drow wizard,
Yeah.
kicks things off. She uses her magic to physically accelerate her own movements and just charges headlong into melee combat with this towering devil.
Which, from a tactical standpoint, is an incredibly dangerous miscalculation against a creature like an Erinys.
I mean, it sounds like a bad idea for a wizard generally.
Well, yeah. Let's break down the mechanics of what happens when a mortal spellcaster tries to physically overwhelm infernal martial perfection.
Please do.
So an Erinys doesn't just swing a normal sword. They wield a withering blade.
A withering blade.
Yeah. This weapon is specifically designed to sever the connection between a mortal's physical body and their life force.
Yikes.
Right. And the logs detail how Valessa's charge is instantly punished. She is forced to burn through her magical reserves, just throwing up arcane shields and desperate defensive wards.
Just to stay alive.
Exactly, just to deflect Nephris' strikes. So Valessa sacrifices her most powerful asset, which is her ability to control the battlefield from a distance.
Right, she's a wizard.
Exactly. And she puts herself in a position where she is just bleeding magical energy just to survive the next 6 seconds.
That makes so much sense. She essentially traps herself in this physical war of attrition with an immortal creature that literally does not get tired.
Nope.
And Nephris is terrifyingly efficient here. The logs note that she swings at Valessa, misses because of those magical shields.
Right.
But she doesn't even break her rhythm. She immediately lashes out with a magical rope across the entire room and completely ensnares Talia.
Just binding her in place.
Yeah. It's not just lethal force, it's instantaneous crowd control.
It demonstrates that Nephris perceives the entire room as a single fluid equation.
Oh, interesting.
She doesn't just focus on the person directly in front of her. She's managing the entire action economy of the opposing force.
So she sees the Matrix.
Pretty much. When she realizes Valessa is temporarily shielded, she doesn't waste energy trying to break the shield. She instantly removes another piece from the board, which is Talia.
Right.
But if we connect this to the broader picture of the party's tactics, this chaos really highlights a stark contrast in discipline.
How so?
While Valessa is charging in recklessly, Seantal, the tiefling warlock, takes a completely different approach.
Oh.
They take cover behind a stone pillar, they hex Nephris' constitution, and they fire off an Eldritch Blast from a safe distance.
Okay, I want to dig into that hex for a second. We read about these magical effects all the time in these logs, but what does it actually mean to hex a devil's constitution?
It's a great question.
How does a mortal warlock physically weaken a commander of hell?
It's actually a fascinating metaphysical mechanic. A devil on the material plane is essentially a dense projection of infernal energy anchored into a physical form.
What?
Constitution, in this specific context, is the strength of that anchor.
Got it.
So when Seantal casts a hex targeting Constitution, they aren't just making Nephris feel physically sick.
Like a stomach bug.
Right, no. They are introducing a localized magical static that disrupts the devil's ability to maintain her physical cohesion.
Oh, wow.
It forces Nephris to expend microfractions of her concentration just to keep her body from destabilizing.
So Seantal is basically attacking the physics of her manifestation.
Exactly, which is a highly tactical move.
But even with that tactical advantage, the party is completely on the back foot. The pacing of this combat log shifts from a tough fight to a lethal catastrophe in a matter of seconds.
It goes downhill fast.
It really does.
Yeah.
The turning point is genuinely shocking to read. Nephris just carves through their defenses. She strikes Seantal down, leaving them unconscious on the temple floor, and then she turns and outright kills Talia.
Yeah. And we need to pause here and really examine the reality of death in this specific universe.
Yes, not a respawn point.
No, not at all. In many stories, death is, a fade to black, a moment of peaceful release. But the session logs provide this horrifying, visceral breakdown of the infernal afterlife.
It's so dark.
Because they are fighting Erinyes, which is being intricately tied to the bureaucratic damnation of souls. Talia's death triggers an immediate metaphysical process.
Okay.
The moment her physical heart stops, her soul doesn't just drift to some peaceful, Feywild rest. It is instantly dragged into the 9 hells.
The description in the notes is just brutal. It says her soul is pulled into a sulfur-reeking stone building deep in the infernal plains, and she's immediately bound in heavy chains.
Because hell is, above all things, a bureaucracy. There's no waiting room. There's no gentle transition with a ferryman. Talia's soul is processed like raw material hitting a factory floor.
Wow.
The chains aren't just physical restraints either. They are spiritual bindings designed to strip away the individual's identity so they can be minted into currency for the lower planes.
That is a terrifying concept. You don't just die, you become immediate property.
Literally.
But the logs show that Seantal manages to regain consciousness, burning through this clutch, powerful, restorative magic to rip Talia's soul back to the material plane and revive her body.
Just in the nick of time.
Yeah, and the detail that really sticks out to me is Talia's reaction.
Yeah, that part is so raw.
She doesn't gasp for air and thank them. She returns with this desperate, quiet plea, just begging the party not to let her be sent back there.
It introduces profound psychological trauma right into the middle of a tactical encounter.
Yeah.
Talia now knows exactly what awaits her if they fail, and that knowledge changes the entire dynamic of the fight.
It has to.
It serves as the catalyst for the party to finally synchronize. Vagfrior, the Tabaxi barbarian, witnesses this and throws herself into the fray.
Right.
The notes describe this terrifying primal transformation that actually induces supernatural fear in the Erinyes.
Which is saying something.
Exactly. Vagfrir tips the scales by introducing an element of chaotic, protective rage that infernal discipline just struggles to compute.
It's like watching a cornered animal suddenly show its teeth, realizing that survival means crossing a line they usually avoid.
That's a perfect analogy.
And then Talia, fresh from literal hell and fully aware of the stakes, burns through her highest magical reserves.
Yeah.
She unleashes this massive psychic thunderclap that reverberates through the subterranean chamber and finally, incredibly, drives Nephris to one knee.
It takes their absolute maximum effort, a brush with eternal damnation, and a synchronization of desperate survival instincts just to force the commander of the Perdixicai to kneel.
But this brings me back to my earlier confusion. I look at this fight, and it reminds me of a high-stakes corporate audit.
Yeah.
But instead of an auditor using a red pen to find discrepancies in your ledger, they're using a withering blade to see if you deserve to survive the fiscal year.
Very true.
Wait, I'm genuinely confused by Glass's plan here. Devils want souls,
Yep.
right? That is their currency.
Correct.
If Glasia has the authenticated contract, why bother testing these mortals at all? Why not just have Nephris execute them, take their souls for the infernal treasury right then and there, and use the contract herself?
That is the perfect question, and it really strikes at the core of infernal motivations. We have to look at the hierarchy here.
Okay.
Glacia is the archdevil of Malbolge, the sixth layer of hell, but she operates in the shadow of her father, Asmodeus, who is the supreme ruler of all 9 hells. Glacia cannot openly attack her father's assets without triggering a cosmic civil war. She operates entirely on leverage, loopholes, and plausible deniability.
Ah, so she needs intermediaries.
Precisely. If Nephris had simply executed the party, Glacia gains a handful of relatively low-value souls, but she gains no political advantage against Asmodeus.
Okay.
By framing this as a test of worth, Glacia creates a win-win scenario. If the party dies, they were too weak to be useful tools anyway.
Acceptable losses.
But if they survive, Glacia has just armed a group of highly capable, highly motivated mortals with the exact legal documentation needed to destroy one of her father's most lucrative cults on the material plane. She gets to strike a blow against Asmodeus, and her fingerprints are nowhere on the weapon.
That is diabolical, literally. And that perfectly frames the transition into the aftermath of the fight, because the battle doesn't end with a heroic death blow.
No, it doesn't.
There's no dramatic final strike against the devil. Instead, the logs describe this sudden, eerie calm falling over the room.
Yeah.
Nephris simply calls a halt to the violence.
The shift from mythic life-or-death violence to cold, bureaucratic assessment is jarring in the best possible way.
It's so abrupt.
Nephris rises from one knee, and the visual described in the notes is striking. She heals instantly.
Just like that.
The wounds close, and her spilled blood turns to ash and simply fades away into the air. It completely invalidates the physical struggle the party just endured.
Walk me through the mechanics of that. How does a creature take a psychic thunderclap to the face, bleed all over a stone floor, and then just dust it off like it was nothing?
It goes back to what we discussed about a devil's manifestation. Nephris's true essence resides in the 9 hells.
Right.
The body the party was fighting is an ephemeral projection, constructed from magic and sheer willpower.
Okay, so it's like an avatar.
Exactly.
All right.
When the test concludes, Nephris no longer needs to subject that projection to the physics of the material plane. She just withdraws the vulnerability.
That's wild.
The blood turning to dust is a visual confirmation that the physical stakes were entirely artificial. She was never in danger of true death. She was merely measuring their output.
It is the ultimate flex. It's Nephris saying, you didn't beat me. I am just finished grading your paper.
Yes, exactly.
And her judgment is incredibly harsh. The notes show her systematically breaking down their flaws. She calls them undisciplined, impulsive, and reckless.
Yeah, she doesn't hold back.
She singles out Valessa specifically, calling her initial charge alarmingly so. She evaluates them not as valiant warriors, but as defective assets.
Yet, despite that scathing review, she gives them a passing grade.
Why?
Because underneath all of that tactical chaos, Nephris acknowledges the one underlying trait that actually makes them viable agents for Glacia's agenda.
And that trait is that they protect one another. The logs say she specifically references Santal pulling Talia back from the brink of hell and Vagfrir's terrifying intervention to draw aggro away from the vulnerable spellcasters.
Yes. Devils understand transactional relationships perfectly.
Right. I give you power, you give me your soul.
Exactly. But what they struggle to compute is selfless transaction. The willingness of mortals to take on massive personal risk, up to and including death, for an ally with absolutely no guarantee of return on investment.
Yeah, it breaks their algorithm.
It does. Nephris realizes that this irrational loyalty makes the party highly resilient and deeply dangerous to their enemies. It is a variable that infernal logic cannot easily predict. Therefore, it makes them useful.
So the devil respects teamwork born out of love or loyalty purely because of how effective it is as a weapon.
Yeah.
That is such a grim, pragmatic way to view friendship. And right after this assessment, Nephris makes this cryptic murmur.
This is a great detail.
The logs say she looks away from the party, stares up at the giant statue of Asmodeus dominating the temple, and says quietly, "Your father would hate this."
That single line of dialogue is a masterclass in establishing infernal politics.
Yeah, what's going on there?
As we discussed, Asmodeus and Glacia have a notoriously fraught relationship. Asmodeus demands absolute hierarchical obedience. Glacia represents subversive, bureaucratic rebellion.
Okay, so she's the rebellious daughter.
Right. By handing over the Castellander contract, a contract that guarantees the souls of mortal children to Asmodeus Glacia, is actively sabotaging her father's long-term investments.
Oh, wow.
Nephris is acknowledging, perhaps with a bit of dark amusement, that they are participating in a cosmic family feud that plays out across dimensions.
And the rewards the party receives for acting as pawns in this feud are substantial. Nephris hands over this black folio. Inside is the authenticated infernal contract.
The prize.
Yeah. The logs emphasize that this isn't just a copy or a transcription. It's a document recognized by the metaphysical laws of the hells themselves. She also gives them what are called Perdixicai seals.
Right, the seals. Those are essentially diplomatic immunity badges for a specific layer of hell.
Just a casual thing to carry around.
I know, right? Having a Perdixicai seal grants the bearer standing in Melbulge. It signifies to other devils that these mortals are recognized assets of Glacia's elite guard.
That's huge.
It is a breathtaking level of clearance for a group of mortals to possess.
But the most intriguing physical reward is something she gives exclusively to Vagfrir. After witnessing the Tabaxi's terrifying transformation, Nephris hands her a small, hammered iron calling card.
Just a little business card.
Right. The logs say it belongs to an infernal armorer known as the Red Anvil. I love the underlying message there. You hit hard, here's my tailor's card.
Very fashionable.
But the mood shifts drastically when the party actually sits down in the temple and reads the authenticated contract they just bled for. They discover these deeply disturbing legal clauses, specifically regarding the Castellanters promising the souls of their children.
The fine print reveals the horrific exactitude of devilish law. The Castellanters promise the soul of their children upon reaching maturity.
Right, maturity.
But a contract for human souls hinges entirely on how the entity holding the contract defines that term.
Oh no.
It does not matter how the mortal parents interpret maturity, nor how human biology defines it. The contract grants the infernal entity the sole right to interpret the trigger condition.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If a devil defines maturity differently than a mortal court, does that mean the Castellanters signed away their children's souls based on a terrifying legal loophole?
Yes.
How do you even begin to litigate that? You can't exactly file an injunction against Asmodeus in small claims court and argue that the fine print is unconscionable.
You can't. And that is the massive structural problem the party faces next. Having secured the ultimate irrefutable proof in blood, magic, and infernal bureaucracy, they now face the incredibly frustrating challenge of translating that cosmic evidence into mortal justice.
Right, because Waterdeep doesn't care about Hell's laws.
The wheels of justice in the city of Waterdeep do not operate on Hell's timeline, nor do they recognize infernal loopholes.
So the party survives the infernal test of worth, but now they face a completely different kind of monster, municipal bureaucracy.
The real boss fight.
Truly.
Yeah.
How do you take a contract validated in Hell and make it legally binding in a mortal city? The logs show this incredible shift in tone, moving from a dark fantasy epic to, essentially, a municipal police procedural.
It's quite a pivot.
It is. The party leaves the subterranean temple and heads straight to a courthouse in the dock ward. They've arranged a meeting with Watch investigators, Barnabas Blastwind, and Captain Histus Statchett.
And this is where the logistics of truth come into play.
Yeah.
How do you present a document forged in hell to a city watch captain without sounding like an absolute lunatic?
Seriously, they're just like, hey, we got this from a devil.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The way the party handles this is brilliant. Sanal, who operates as the civil servant of the group, summons their Madran assistant, designated 742B.
Okay, stop right there.
Uh-huh.
I need an ELI 5 on Madra.
Sure.
Because the notes just say it's a creature of absolute law. But what does that actually mean? Don't just tell me it's a creature of law. How does it work in practice?
Okay, imagine a Madran not as a biological creature, but as a living, breathing blockchain algorithm given physical form.
Well, that's a good way to put it.
Madrans originate from a plane called Mechanus, where everything is dictated by absolute mathematical certainty.
Okay.
To a Madran, truth is not a subjective concept. It is a physical property, like gravity or mass.
So they literally can't lie.
They are incapable of it. When Seantal uses Madran 742B to copy the Castellanter's ninth ledger in the Infernal Contract, the Madran isn't just acting as a magical photocopier.
It's authenticating it.
Exactly. The Madran's very existence validates the mathematical and metaphysical truth of the document it is reproducing. When it hands those copies to the watch investigators, it is presenting evidence that is structurally incapable of being a forgery.
That is fascinating. It's like having a notary public whose stamp is backed by the fundamental laws of physics.
Pretty much.
So they drop this perfectly authenticated, unassailable evidence onto the desks of these two investigators. But they are navigating a total political minefield. The Castellanders are the wealthiest, most influential, noble family in Waterdeep.
Which is why Santal's framing of the narrative is so crucial here.
Right.
The City Watch has been investigating a series of recent dock explosions. Santal does not lie. They admit that the Castellander twins, the children, were physically responsible for the bombings.
Which is a huge admission.
It is, but they frame it as an act of desperate, terrified rebellion against their parents, Victorio and Amalia Castellanter. Santal positions the parents as the true architects of the city's corruption and the cult's activities.
They are building an airtight RICO case against untouchable billionaires. They hand over the ledger detailing the financial crimes, the infernal contract proving the soul sacrifices, noble signet rings they recovered from the cult's basement as physical ties, and even the exact location of a secret escape tunnel the cult uses leading to the mudflats.
It's incredibly thorough.
It is a mountain of evidence. But then, the logs show the party has to issue warnings that no standard police force is prepared for.
Yeah, this is where the mundane reality of the City Watch crashes into the supernatural horror of the Castellanter estate.
Hard reality check.
The party explicitly warns Captain Stagit about the physical threats inside the mansion. They explain that the eldest son, Osvaldo Castellanter, has been transformed by the cult into a chain devil and is locked in the attic.
Just casual family secrets.
Right. And they warn them about a highly dangerous infernal nanny guarding the younger children.
Okay, I have to jump in here and question the logic of this plan.
Go for it.
Sending the City Watch after a chain devil isn't just a mismatch of firepower, it's an issue of jurisdictional physics.
How do you mean?
Well, the Watch's entire authority is based on physical confinement, right? They use handcuffs, they put you in holding cells, they restrain you. A chain devil manipulates the very concept of binding as a weapon. Its literal appendages are chains. You aren't just outgunned. Your primary tool of law enforcement is the monster's favorite weapon. How is a standard city captain supposed to handle that?
You are absolutely right to question that, and the investigators in the room recognize the exact same flaw.
They realize they're out of their depth.
Oh, instantly. It is a massive escalation of jurisdiction. The Code Legal of Waterdeep is designed to handle thieves, murderers, maybe rogue spellcasters.
Right.
It is not equipped to siege an estate fortified by fiends. That is why Investigator Blastwind's reaction is the linchpin of this entire meeting.
What does he do?
Well, Captain Stagit agrees the documentary evidence is damning enough to legally move on the Castellanters, but Blastwind immediately recognizes the tactical impossibility. He asks for the party's help in getting the Blackstaff involved.
Okay, for those who might not know the lore of Waterdeep,
No.
what does bringing in the Blackstaff actually mean for this operation?
The Blackstaff is the title held by the highest magical authority in Waterdeep. They act as the defender of the city against supernatural threats, and they command an elite group called Force Grey.
So they're the big guns.
The biggest. If the City Watch is the municipal police department, the Blackstaff is the equivalent of a magical SWAT team with authorization to deploy weapons of mass destruction.
Wow.
By involving the Black Staff, the Watch is basically admitting they are out of their depth and requesting military-grade arcane intervention to breach the Castellanter estate.
It really highlights the absurdity of the party's situation.
Yeah.
They survived a trial by combat against an Aranese just so they could do the necessary paperwork to authorize a magical fiat raid.
It's hilarious when you put it like that.
But with the law finally slowly moving against the Elder Castellanters, the logs show the party has one last, deeply personal obligation for the night.
Yeah, this part is tough.
We zoom all the way back out from the cosmic games and the city politics to the human cost of all of this. They have to return to their secret meeting room to deliver the news to the runaway Castellanter twins, Elzarina and Terenzio.
This brings the entire narrative full circle. The grand cosmic feud between Asmodeus and Glazia, the bureaucratic nightmare of the infernal courts, the jurisdictional red tape of the Waterdeep Watch. It all ultimately trickles down to two traumatized teenagers hiding in a secret room, waiting to find out if they're going to lose their souls.
Valessa, the wizard who charged headfirst into the Aranese, takes the lead here.
Which is very in character.
Yeah, and she does not sugarcoat it. The logs say she walks into the room and bluntly drops the bombshell. They have the authenticated contract, and they got it from a commander of the Prodixicae.
The psychological contrast in the siblings' reactions is incredibly telling here.
How so?
The notes describe Elzarina as being completely starstruck. She is awed by the fact that the party encountered high-ranking devil royalty and lived to tell the tale.
Really? Even though they're the ones who hold her soul.
Yeah, it speaks to a sort of supernatural Stockholm syndrome. Even as a victim of the infernal pact, she is seduced by the sheer proximity to that kind of absolute power.
It's so sad. Meanwhile, her brother Terenzio has the exact opposite reaction.
He's not impressed.
No. He's disgusted. He is deeply cynical. He doesn't care about devil royalty or magical seals. He has lived his whole life watching how wealth insulates his parents.
Exactly.
He cares about whether Waterdeep's justice system will actually punish the richest family in town, and it is clear he has zero faith in that system.
And that cynicism is entirely justified based on his life experience. He knows that in a mortal city, gold often outweighs evidence.
Sad but true.
That is where Siantal steps in to deliver a much-needed reality check. Siantal shows the twins the Prodixicae seal, providing absolute, tangible proof of their victory over infernal forces.
Right.
And then they deliver a stern, measured lecture. They warn the twins about the dangers of running from their own actions, specifically their involvement in the dock bombings.
Siantal essentially points to the twins' parents as a cautionary tale. They say, look what happens when you try to evade consequences and look for shortcuts with fiends. You end up sacrificing 99 innocent people and turning your oldest kid into a chain devil locked in the attic.
It's brutal.
It's a harsh truth for teenagers to hear, but it forces them to take accountability.
It is a necessary intervention. The party recognizes that simply saving the twins from the contract isn't enough. They have to stop the cycle of corruption.
Yeah.
This leads to a highly strategic compromise. The party offers the twins a form of managed exile.
Tell me about that.
They propose hiding the twins in the neighboring city of Baldur's Gate, safely out of reach of both Waterdevian law enforcement and the reach of their parents' cult, until the Elder Castellanters are officially brought down.
Okay.
But there is a condition. Once the dust settles and the estate is secured, the twins must return to Waterdeep and come forward as primary witnesses.
So what does this all mean? The party has pivoted from demon hunters to essentially running a supernatural witness protection program.
Pretty much.
They are treating these teenage domestic terrorists like high-value mafia informants who need to be kept on ice in another jurisdiction until the trial begins.
Exactly. They are leveraging the twins' safety to ensure cooperation. And the session notes leave it on a brilliant, unresolved cliffhanger regarding human nature.
Ooh, what happens?
Well, will Elzarina and Terenzio actually honor this deal and testify? Or will the trauma of their upbringing and the lure of infernal vengeance pull them off the path before the trial even happens? We don't know yet.
Man, it is such a dense, incredibly rich session. If you step back and look at the whole picture, the party navigated 3 completely different worlds in a single night.
If we synthesize this entire journey, it truly is a masterpiece of shifting genres.
Yeah.
The party begins by surviving a brutal mythic evaluation by a commander of hell, forcing them to prove their physical and spiritual resilience.
Right, the combat phase.
Then they must untangle the frustrating bureaucratic red tape of mortal law enforcement, translating cosmic truths into legally actionable police reports.
The procedural phase.
Exactly. And finally, they have to act as trauma counselors for the fallout, managing the psychological damage inflicted on the Castellanter children.
And it connects so perfectly to the real world, honestly.
How do you mean?
Well, the entire session beautifully illustrates that absolute proof, whether it's an authenticated infernal contract signed in blood or a leaked corporate email proving financial fraud, is only as good as the system willing to enforce it.
That's a great point.
The paper simply doesn't matter if the City Watch cannot figure out a way to get past the chain devil in the attic, just like a smoking gun document doesn't matter in the real world if the regulators are too outgunned to take on the billionaire's legal team. A system of justice has to have both the evidence and the teeth to apply it.
A profound point. But as we wrap up this analysis, there is one final provocative detail buried in the notes that I cannot stop thinking about, and it revolves around the rewards Nephris handed out before she vanished.
The calling card. Lay it on me.
Think back to the mechanics of the trial's conclusion. Nephris healed instantly. Her spilled blood turned to ash and faded away because her physical form on the material plane was entirely ephemeral.
Right, just a temporary projection of willpower that dissolved the moment she withdrew it.
Yet, right before she left, she handed Vangfrey Orr a physical hammered iron calling card for an infernal forge known as the Red Anvil.
Right, an actual physical object left behind by a creature whose very body turned to dust.
Exactly. If a devil's physical presence is so fleeting, what exactly are the materials forged at the Red Anvil made of that allow them to persist permanently in the mortal world?
Oh, that's a good question.
And more importantly, by accepting that iron card directly from the hand of an Aranis commander, has Vangfrier unknowingly entered into a preliminary contract of her own? Has she agreed to pay a price that no City Watch and no Black Staff can ever protect her from?
Now, that is a terrifying thought to leave on. Keep your eyes on the fine print, everyone. Until next time.